Today I'm talking about overtime pay. And overtime pay is a federal U.S. law that requires an employer to pay overtime to a certain category of workers who work more than 40 hours in a particular work week. If an individual works more than 40 hours, they're entitled to time and a half. So if they're earning $10 an hour and they work more than 40 hours, they should be paid $15 an hour for all hours over 40 in that particular week. There is an exception, and the exception is for what are called exempt employees, and those are for professionals or administrative staff, and there are certain definitions on how to qualify for all of that. But the bottom line is if an individual is working more than 40 hours in a week and they don't have a professional license or they're not a very senior employee, even though they may be paid a straight salary, they could still be eligible for overtime pay. And in fact, in the U.S. district courts around the United States, this is one of the most common types of civil lawsuits that are filed, that is for overtime pay. And if an individual wins this type of lawsuit, the employer is also required to pay attorney's fees, and ultimately the attorney's fees would be awarded by the court. Now, for some job titles, there's been confusion over whether the individual can get overtime. For example, the job of accountant. Some employers will pay accountants time and a half or pay them overtime. Other employers will not pay accountants overtime, just pay them a straight salary. And what have the courts said? Well, there's all sorts of decisions from the courts. In some cases, the courts have said overtime should be paid. In other cases of accountants, the courts have said overtime should not be paid. So many times it's done on a case-by-case basis to see whether the individual controls his own time the way a professional might, or if the individual is taking direction, not in any sort of supervisory capacity, by their employer. We've even had cases where an individual was called a supervisor by their employer and paid a salary, and we've still been able to prevail in those cases and get overtime compensation for our clients. So if an individual, in conclusion here, if an individual is working more than 40 hours in a week, it's really worthwhile to investigate, speak with an attorney that does this type of law, to see whether or not they'd be able to get compensated at time and a half for all hours worked in excess of 40 hours.